Because of language barriers and cultural challenges, we have diaspora communities that feel most comfortable with and even exclusively consume ethnic media contents. The communist regime has successfully monopolized Chinese ethnic media, either through complete takeover or being co-opted via the carrot and stick approach with business interests. With the successful execution of this strategy, CCP has effectively controlled the diaspora community's hearts and mind. In the long run, it perpetrates a false narrative of a complete equivalency of the Chinese Communist Party, China, the state, and Chinese, the race. Therefore, criticizing the CCP will quickly escalate into anti-Chinese racism. With that long-term foundation laid and continue being laid as we speak, the regime can activate their political influence by spreading and seemingly authoritative commentary or news stories at their right time. Their goal is twofold: to install decision makers that they have access to or control of, or to remove those that stand against their efforts. Unfortunately, in my humble opinion, Canada has run out of time in dithering and procrastinating. This is not the moment for more talks and virtual signaling, but legislative actions that aim to protect Canada, your home, and home to many cultural communities. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Mr. Brock, you have 5 minutes.
I'd like to start off by saying hello to Mr. Chu, and I have a number of questions for you, sir. So I understand that it wasn't just yourself that was impacted by foreign election interference, but in fact your former colleagues Alice Wong and Bob Soraya. Now, I've done a little bit of research. I understand that all three of those ridings have a very large Chinese-Canadian population. Can you opine as to what you believe to be one of the factors or a number of factors that contributed to the number of traditional conservative Canadians in those ridings that for whatever reason simply did not vote? I understand there was a substantial drop in the percentage of voting, not only in your riding, but Ms. Wong's and Mr. Soraya's. Can you offer some information on that for me, please?
Absolutely. I think there has been a study conducted that shows across Canada, wherever there is a high concentration of Chinese population ridings with that, the number of support that the Conservative in 2021 has received has dropped, bucking the trend of all the other ridings in the neighboring ridings where those ridings are. And I think this is the effect of the disinformation that's been spread. Yes, they target specific candidates such as myself in ridings that I represent or I was running, but at the same time they would also generalize this and use it across Canada in many of the Chinese ridings to indicate that the party itself, the leadership itself, they have taken an anti-Chinese role, and the fact that they've misconstrued that Mr. O'Toole, the Conservative, will ban WeChat. Consider, put yourself in their shoes. If you rely on WeChat for the only lifeline to connect to your family and conduct business in Canada, and if a political party will do that, and that particular party, there's an MP that proposed a foreign registry that would put you and your descendants into jeopardy. Would you be voting for that, even though they align very well with your value? So I believe across the country, it actually has hurt many of riding, even though we have won by potentially with a smaller margin.
Okay. I guess it really highlights the importance of social media to Chinese Canadians, particularly the platform of WeChat. Were there other platforms of social media or other ways that they spread the message that you ought not to be considering conservatives in the next election?
It's not just WeChat, it's not just social media, it's multidimensional. It's on the airwave that CRTC is supposed to be regulating. It's on printed media. It's also on websites. These multidimensional disinformation campaigns help to solidify the mistrust on certain particular politicians or political party. And it's very effective, especially during election time.
Was any of these issues prevalent in your election success in 2019? Did you feel the pressures from Beijing?
In 2015, I actually had an opportunity to sit down with the Consul General in Vancouver. I believe she was trying to size me up back then. But in 2019, they have decided that I'm completely beyond hope. So the information that I've got from my Chinese supporter has been that they've told people not to vote for me, but there is no active campaign against me that I can observe.
In 2019, NSICOP, the National Security and Intelligence Committee of Parliamentarians, which is made up of parliamentarians of every stripe, studied the whole issue of foreign election interference and made a number of recommendations that would appear that the Liberal government did not follow through on. Our Prime Minister, most recently, in light of all of the information that has been leaking, has indicated that he has to do a better job and follow the recommendations. How does that make you feel, sir, knowing that the Prime Minister who had this information 4 years ago essentially ignored all of those recommendations?
Very quick response, please, Mr. Chu, if you don't mind.
Thank you. I try to be as nonpartisan as I can, but frankly, being a targeted person and a particular ethnic race, I feel I'm vulnerable. That my government is not there to protect me when it's needed.
Thank you, Mr. Chu. Mr. Brock.